Hello, hello, dear Kardec Radio listeners, everyone that's joined us tonight here through Facebook Live, and also that are following us on the radio, connected with us in this moment. We're starting, my friends, day number 25 of the Illuminated Prayers. What a blessing it is to be here one more time with you guys, connected through the symphony of love and the elevated prayers that we're studying. Right? It's prayers that are brought to us by Andrea Luis through the mediumship of Chico Xavier, through numerous books that we've been studying in the last few days, right? So thank you all for joining us. And today we're going to continue in this wonderful book, Action and Reaction by Andrea Luis through Chico Xavier. Hello, Matthew. Hi, nice to see you there too. Everyone is starting to slowly join us. We're going to get started in a few minutes, okay? So continue. I'm going to pick up from Carol, which did a fantastic job yesterday once again, facilitating this study and looking at the beginning of this book, right? So just a little recap, right? So we can study the prayer that we have organized for tonight. The story of Action Reaction is a very interesting one because it describes many stories of spirits who are rescued by Mansão Paz, right, or the peace mansion, which is maintained by our brother Druso. Druso is very elevated spirit, very helpful, very supportive. Hello, Sunshine. Nice to see you there again too. Welcome for one more time, so we have a chance to talk a little bit about this Illuminated Prayers, right? So as I was saying, the Mansão Paz is maintained by our brother Druso, situated in the lower zones. And as you noticed probably by now, there are many. Hola, Betsy. Yes, nice to see you too. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, right? Thank you for being here every night with us, making this possible, right? For all of you out there that are connected with us. And, it is such a joy, such a good energy, right? To have you guys here so we have a chance to talk and have a very good time discussing and learning together, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're having the opportunity of learning together, right? This Illuminated Prayers. So, Brother Druso, which is leading this work of Mansão Paz, that's situated in the lower zones, receives hundreds and hundreds of spirits who are really suffering, right? In areas that are described similar to what the classical descriptions of hell would be, right? Areas of suffering, where many of the spirits are blocked or lacking love, but they will be there, right? They'll eventually get to it. They're living delusions, right? Vices, the cyclical ideas that are so disruptive to us as a spirit. So they're being preyed on by several other obsession spirits and other spirits that devote themselves, right, to, in a way, affect negatively, right, all these individuals, right? So these are the obsessors that we're describing in this book, okay? And this is relatively similar to the story of Liberation, for example, which is another book we studied not too long ago, but also reports a visit to the umbral or to the lower zones of our own globe, right? So we're talking about our own planet, okay? So we're not talking about something that's here or there in the space, right? It's actually very, very much close to us, right? And in every sense of the word, okay? So everything that we're discussing here is close to us when we think about evolution purposes, moral evolution, right? The stories that we're studying are sometimes similar to stories that we see on a day-to-day basis. And the places that we're discussing here are not too far from the surface of Earth. That's where we are. Okay, so that's kind of interesting to think about. That's this perspective. Right? So Mansão Paz is under the jurisdiction of Nosso Lar. Remember Nosso Lar? We've already studied a little bit too. The same sequence of books by André Luiz, right? It describes several institutions and several individuals who are somehow connected to this work by Nosso Lar. And we are following specifically, particularly today, we're going to look at André Luiz, Hilário, under the guidance of Silas. They're all coming from Mansão Paz to a mission to help a specific individual, which is the core of the story right now. His name is Antônio Olímpio Case, right? So Antônio Olímpio Case is, as it always is, right? A very complex story with several characters, several individuals involved, and everyone has they're connected. They have their own challenges, their own psychological perspectives, traumas. They have. They are all seeking, obviously, to evolve, and they're going to be helped. But you can't help one individual alone. And we know that, right? Because we live in a society, we have very, very strong ties, and we have to be helped all at the same time, right? And that's what we're studying tonight. Hello, Nora. Welcome. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Okay? Very happy to have all of you here. All right. So this is a very brief summary of the book. Okay. Now, in this particular trip, they are also joined by Alzira. Alzira is connected to the story. So Alzira is a husband of Antônio Olímpio, which is the main characters of this part of the story. Okay, and their brother-in-law. Both of them are the obsessors now, and they're having a very, very severe form of obsession against Luiz, which is Alzira's son, and Antônio Olímpio's son, right? So the Luiz is there, still incarnated, and he's undergoing a lot of issues because of the two obsessor spirits that we're going to study specifically tonight. Okay, and along the way, we're going to have a beautiful, beautiful prayer from Alzira in support of her husband, which is in a very, very he's in a very comatose state of mind. He's sleepy. He's just rescued, and he's obviously suffering, right? And the prayers specifically for that case. Okay, so that's the brief story. Now let's go into the core of the message. So what are we talking about today? Is individuals who are connected to material things. In this case, money, gold, possessions, right? So why is Luiz right now being obsessed? And they have a direct route to get into his mind and control it. Is they're using the own energies, their own thoughts, and emanating from Luiz. So in this story, my friends, we're going to learn how the obsessors do their work. And it's not doing the work. It's not a story in a book, right? That we're reading about someone else. No. This is a story that they're explaining what they do to us. Yes, that's right, my friends. Okay? So, in a way, they're telling us, the obsessors are telling us straight on that, hey, we cannot come up with the cause of the obsession. That's not what we do. What they're going to be telling us is how they can take advantage of our own thoughts, right? The vibrations that we emanate, and potentiate them until they have control, right? Of how we think and how we act. So we're going to learn that. Okay, they're going to talk about the techniques they use to do that. Okay, and obviously by learning those things and understanding a little bit of the story, we can help ourselves, right? Of how to increase our energies to prevent, right, such type of activity to occur. Okay, so that's a beautiful part of the story. Very challenging sometimes, but very interesting. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to continue. So today I'm going to, because this chapter in particular, it has a recap of the entire story. So I'm going to be doing the same. Okay, and I hope you guys join me in this ride. Okay, because I'm going to have to talk a lot about the story so we can make sense of what's going on. Right? If you read the book already, great. So we can go straight to what you've accessing your remote memories, right? We can do that. Okay. So accessing your memories and kind of remember the story. If you have not read the book, right, there are spoilers. Okay. So, let's, I'm just a little warning, okay? Because we have to do it, all right? But at the same time is a little push, right? So we can actually go there and maybe read it again or read it for the first time. Okay. So what happens here in this particular chapter? Okay, and I hope you guys are all still there. Everyone's okay. I have let's see, I have several. Everyone's fine. Okay, perfect. Let's keep going up. Okay. So Alzira, as I explained to you, mother of Luis, right, was married to Antonio Limpio, right? She's trying to help her son for a long time, okay? So this is something that we know, right? We know mothers trying to help sons. We know that happens in the incarnate world, that happens in the discarnate world, and in the interchange between, right? Because we always have the maternal filial love towards parents, right? So she's using that. She's continuing her mission as a mother to help her son who is still there incarnated. And her son Luis is not in a good spot, right? Because he fell towards his greediness, right? He fell toward his connection to money, and he's really, really connected to it, okay? That is very important today. It was important 50, 60 years ago. It's still very much important and will still be important 100 years from today, because that's the stage of evolution that we are, right? We're still very well connected to material things, possessions, and money, right? That's the way our society revolves still. Okay, so this story really touches us right now, and we'll read it carefully today. Okay, so he had, according to Andre Luis, a lust for money, right? He subjected Luis, his entire family, to suffering because of his fortune. Okay, so he would deny things to his family in order to save money. Okay, and save a fortune, build up this enormous amount of these pieces of paper with numbers on, right? Just, our currency, right? Money. Okay. I don't know if you ever heard that before, but I don't know. Maybe it happens, right? Maybe in another world. No, it happens right here, right? With all around us. It happens everywhere. Okay. So Louise really believed the only power that existed in the universe was the power of money. Because with money, he believed you could buy anything. Okay? And this is important because although many of us will say, that's not true, right? Money cannot buy everything. There's no power in money. But at the same time, there are moments where we eventually fall into that trap, right? Maybe not us, I don't know, but a lot of people around us, right? We fall into those traps quite frequently. And I'm not saying here in any way that we have to work hard to provide for our families. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this obsession, this direct connection with money alone in a way that is pathological, which negatively influences one's life and other people's lives, right? So that's the definition of a pathological obsession with money, okay? So that is Luis, right? So can you guys see the very big window that he opened, right? so the obsessors can go in. That's what we do, right? And the obsessors are clear telling us that, say, listen, we're not doing much here, right? What we're doing is using whatever we have available, right? In this case, by his direct connection with his continuous obsession with thoughts and actions towards money, he opened up a big window that's accessible, right? So they could just potentiate that, and then they will have easily passage through to subject him to images that were created not by his mind, but by the mind of obsessors. All they had to do is to touch that tone, to touch that vibration related to money and possessions, right? Every time they touch that chord, they establish the connection, right? And that's exactly what happens in the spiritual world, okay? Now, Antonio Olimpio, was Alzira's husband and the father, right? The father of Luis. He discarnated several years, right? And he outlived Alzira for about 15 years still on Earth, okay? But Antonio Olimpio, he did a lot of things that were against the divine laws too, okay? He was involved in the drowning or the killing of his two brothers. And that all occurred originally because of, guess what? Would you guys believe it? Money, right? Possessions, right? So see how the stories are connected, right? All our stories are connected, okay? And because of that, now the two brothers of Antonio are actually the obsessors of Antonio and his son, right? And that's how the story is set up. Remember the title of the book, Action and Reaction. So it's simple, yes. It's hard to understand sometimes, but the principle is very easy to follow, right? So for every action, there is um, a proportional reaction that counteracts or adjusts the initial force of action, right? So that is the law. So if you do something that it goes against the divine laws, there will be a reciprocal force against it in order to correct it. Now, I can make it easier, lessen it, or I can make it worse. It depends on my free will, how I change, how I understand things. That's another story altogether, but every action is a reaction. So there was initial action, and now Luis and Antonio are subjected to the reaction, right? So that's what we're looking at, and how now we can rescue these individuals, right? Because in the end, everyone here is a suffering spirit. All of them, although they can feel they have a lot of power, they're fantastic, that's all not true. We know that, right? Because we know from Jesus that the only law that governs really the universe altogether as a whole is based on love. That is the core, that is the essence, that is the bonding unit of who we are. Okay? So we all eventually will follow it. All right? So Alzira, that's been trying to help her family and her son specifically for so long, right? So she decides then to join Mansão La Paz in order to go and have a chance to physically help, right, the situation. Okay, and by this time of the book, by this time of the story, Antonio Olimpio is already rescued, so they were able to rescue him, okay, and bring him to Mansão Paz. But he's not in a state of full conscience, right? Oh, thank you for the little heart. I know, I love that too. Okay, it's a beautiful story. And Alzira approaches him, and she asks for permission to see her husband, right, which is just discarnated. And she asks to lead a prayer, right, to her husband, Antonio. See, love bind us, all of us, forever, right? And this is not going to disappear because one did something good or wrong in this particular time and space, right? Because eventually we're always going to be together and learn together and we build love together, right? So she's giving us that perfect example because obviously her life with Antonio had a lot of issues, right? So it's not a straightforward relationship as we understand. It was a very complex nature. Antonio was not doing a lot of good things, right? But she still now shows that she's evolved enough that she can look at Antonio as someone who needs her love, right? And she's going to do it, okay? And that's a lesson to all of us, right? Because sometimes we look at someone's mistakes and we picture that person as one mistake, right? And then from that time point on, all we can see in that individual is one mistake they've done ever, right? Or maybe more than once, but we always focus on those negative things and we forget that being all brothers and sisters, right? Sometimes people need us and we have also to learn to overcome our own challenges on forgiving, right? It's hard, it's not easy, right? But we have to do that sometimes, okay? Anyways, that's probably another lecture, another study that we're going to facilitate, okay? So let's look at her prayer first, okay? Just to follow in the same sequence that the book brings us to us, all right? And I hope everyone will follow with me. I'm just going to read directly from the book, okay? So she's going to pray according to her faith, according to Andrea Louise, and then she's going to pray to Mary, right? So most holy mother, that's what she said. Guardian angel of all those shipwrecked on earth, right? Shipwrecked, we all know what it is, right? Disaster, okay? Have mercy on us and extend your sweet and pure hands to us, okay? I know, dear lady, that you are not deaf to our pleas and that no one has ever gone unanswered when addressing you in affliction and pain. No one ever gone unanswered, and that's absolutely true. We learned that, my friends. Remember that? We've learned that every single prayer will, for sure, be heard, right? Will be heard. Now, the consequences from the prayer will be very diverse, and very often we are the ones that don't actually see or block ourselves from receiving the help, right? We know that already. Okay, but the when addressed, so as she says here, so we know, she continues, right? We know that your compassionate heart is a light for those who have gone astray in the darkness of crime, and love for all those immersed in the abyss of hatred. So the heart, right, of Mary, in this case, of the Holy Mother, shines light to those who are in the abyss of darkness because of what they've done wrong. And that goes to us. Now, our Father, Mother, God, right, who is the Creator, He's looking from the creation, right? He's looking at His own creation. And I'm saying looking here, which is a very metaphorical way, right? Because we can't really understand what's God well, but that's another story. And so God looking at all of us, right? This little tiny babies growing up in life. If one of our babies do something wrong, would you banish them forever and say that they're just hate and they're horrible? No, right? So what the prayer is considering here in the beginning is that exactly what I said. Depending on the perspective you are, you see things in a very different way, right? And higher you are in evolution, the more you are tender and loving to those who make mistakes, right? Because that's how we learn, right? So everything is a learning opportunity, including, and that's important too, because here's what I'll tell you what we think, right? Most of the time. When we start studying Spiritism, right? And I'll give you Spiritism because that's what we're studying now, but it applies to a lot of other concepts too. Okay, when we started studying Spiritism, and we sat because our human minds are very good at judging and ranking. So we compare, contrast, and rank things all the time. I'll give you an example. oh, someone's nicer than this, is beautiful than that, is taller than this. So that's something we do all the time, right? We're putting everything into scale and perspective, better than me or worse than me, or faster than that. And there's always a little scale that we use, okay? And because we do that all the time, right? So every time we here looking at other individuals, right? So we keep kind of ranking things above and below, but that's our perspective, right? Because we're here in the same level. If you go a step above and you look down, like all of us will be kind of in the same stage of evolution, like in the world of regeneration, moving into it, right? So that's where we are. So when Jesus comes and tell us, right, that we should love always, right, everyone, including, and he's very clear, including the worst, the ones that do things against us, right? We have to love everyone. So he's looking from his own perspective, and he's understanding that all of us need to learn that. That's a big block we need to go through, right? You follow that, my friends? Right? So this book is also telling us a little bit of that, right? And I was saying, when we start studying Spiritism, we start ranking things, right, below, and we say, well, hell is here, okay? Hell is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Like, we call it umbral, we call it hell, we call it this. Like, you can find names for it, okay? So this is bad. So good is like not so much. So it's good. The umbral is bad. Kind of a lot of suffering, and it's horrible. Now, in our childish minds, there's this long pathway between these two places, and they can never really interact because, this is so good. This is like representative images, right? That's how we do. But the book also brings a very different perspective here, because he teaches us that, well, what you see here as suffering is also a tool that is used, okay, created by God, okay, that for all of us who committed certain attitudes that goes against the law, and we're focused on that a lot, or we're really stuck on that. So that area of suffering created by ourselves is important, because that will be the trigger of regeneration, right? So God does not want us to suffer, but because we create that, he uses that on his divine creation to allow us to be better. And he puts these spiritual cities that are slightly above us, right, in close contact with those places, so the true love can cycle through back and forth. Because, as you probably realize very soon in the book, all those individuals that are being rescued and the ones that are rescuing, they're also interconnected in the story. And eventually, if you look back enough, all of them have done things good and bad, right? It's always a question of perspective, okay? And yes, Belinda, that's correct, right? Amar nossos inimigos. So love your enemies, right? It's in the gospel. But not only the gospel, it's the core basis of almost every religious principle that we've learned throughout the thousands and thousands of years of humanity, right? And it goes back all the way to the philosophers, which came back thousands of years before. So the source of that information comes directly from the Creator, right? And now the last iteration we have of that by practice is Jesus. Okay? So, all right, so let's keep going then. So let's continue the prayer, okay? So she's going to continue the prayer to our Holy Mother Mary, okay? So you forgave those who crucified your divine Son on the cross. That is a beautiful image, right? She is a mother. Look at the relationship between the prayer and where Alzira is. So Alzira is using that same imagery, because for her, she is now asking for support, right? To help her son, which is also being, in a way, crucified. In other words, like punished in a way, right? That's how the concept goes, by the actions that he's done through the obsession, right? So that's why she's using that same image. And she continues, and besides the patience in which you bore their insults, you even came down from heaven offering them your protective arms, because she represents the mother, loving mother that helps all the sufferers, right? And particularly in certain religious tradition, that is a very, very important image, right? How she actually represents, right, the mother, the love from the mother that can go through any type of disturbances you can possibly imagine and will stay strong. Okay, that's what her represents. Kind mother, she continues, you who have uplifted the falling along the roads of so many earthly generations, you who mercifully heal the wounds of all those who become hardened in cruelty, right? See the mother's love in action again, right? So it's just showing us one more time that she's just picturing, she's describing the love, right? Of someone who will even heal the wounds of the ones that are hardened in cruelty, right? Because remember we talked about perspective. So based on perspectives, right, from where, right, the image of the Holy Mother is, so all of those little kids that we're looking at, the ones that are hurt, the ones that hurt, will eventually achieve perfection. She knows that by now, right? It's just we're the ones who don't know, right? So we pick fights. We keep fighting with each other all the time, okay? Yeah, so kind mother who have uplifted the fallen, we mentioned that. You mercifully heal the wounds of the ones that become hardened. Yeah, we just mentioned that. Cast your merciful gaze upon my husband and me. So she's asking Mary to look at them, right? Just imagine that image, how beautiful that is, right? And it's important for us to picture the images of what we read, right, in these prayers, because that is exactly what we do. When we're reading this, that image will be constructed through our thoughts in the universal cosmic fluid that surrounds us and will be alive, my friends. Our thoughts are alive. We can feel them. They're right here. Although this eye's here, we can't see it that well, okay? But from the eyes, or the consider the vision from the perispirit and spirit, then we can see them quite clear, my friends, right? So pay attention while we're thinking, right? So she continues, yoked as we are to the consequences of two murders that make our hearts bleed. So she's recognizing that what's happening is a consequence of their own actions. Again, what's the name of the book? Action and Reaction, right? Beautiful. It's like a big summary of the book, okay? We are entwined together in the webs of our moral delinquency, right? So they're entwined, they're connected, tight together in the acts that they performed before. Although I was not with him on those ghastly waters where he killed his brothers, right? That's what she's talking about. As he waited for his brothers to drown. Again, let's picture that. Imagine such a sad scenario, right? When this is happening. So she's saying that she was not there, but look at this. I too am partly responsible for the crime because they were supportive of each other, right? Dear Mother of Heaven, my husband's heart must have been enveloped in a dark cloud when he made the insane decision that has stained our consciences. So she's, in a way, based on her own faith, confessing, right? That's the action that she's recognizing. She's putting herself in a humble position, right? By saying it, by manifesting it, okay? To others, and she continues, he may have been a criminal who stole other people's money and caused the death of his own brothers, okay? But not to my son and I, who have always enjoyed the highest expressions of his love. And this is true, my friends. Even the individuals who commit a lot of serious acts. Inside of them, there is a seed that is present in every one of us. Is this little seed of love that will lead us to perfection, and we cannot deny it. All of us have it because that's the sign of the Creator on us. Okay? So even those individuals will, all of them, eventually evolve and learn, right? And there's no individual who is completely lacking love. That does not exist. It does not exist. We may temporarily be disconnected in a way, partially disconnected from it by our own will, but we cannot get rid of it. Right? We can't. So much so that even philosophers in the past have questioned that, right? That's a different story. So, for example, some philosophers would question that the act of thinking is such a moment of freedom that they had trouble understanding it. Right? There's a lot of things that we can reflect on. This is one, right? We can't really get rid of the seed of perfection of love that's sitting right here, and we're gonna let it shine, like Kado, my beautiful friend, tells us all the time. Gotta let it shine, right? Gotta put a little bit of water in it, right? Coddle it, feed it, right? You feed it with good actions. How can you make something grow? Is by using it, right? You don't make something grow by not using it, right? So that's what we have to do. This is an invitation for us to love one another, my friends. This is beautiful, right? This is so beautiful. Let's continue here the prayer, okay? Dear Mother of Heaven, my husband's heart must have been enveloped, and we just mentioned that, right? To others, he may have been a criminal, as we just explained, but not for them, right? So to others, she continues, he is a defendant before the law. To us, however, he is a companion and faithful friend, right? See how we judge, right? Do we judge people? I don't know. Yes? No? Okay. So we always have a very, or almost always, right? Not always. Always may be a little bit too harsh, right? But we almost always have this, this impulse, right? Of defining a situation based on a tiny little amount of evidence that we have. Okay? And that is so true, my friends. Okay? So I can give you one quick example, and I'll just grab here something that will help me manifest that. Okay? So this is a little book for my son. Okay? So I'm going to hold it very much here. Okay? So you guys can see that. Okay? So there's a lot of little characters in this book, and we can see all of them, right? And I can ask you, so who are you guys seeing here? So there's Mr. Happy, Mr. Funny, right? Right? And you've seen all of them, okay? So that's great. These are great books. We can read a lot about it, and even big guys, big boys can read it too. Now, if I tell you what I'm seeing here is just one character, I can only see one, right? You guys can probably see a lot of them, right? But see, I can only see one, Mr. Skinny, right? And why? Because my perspective is very different from yours, right? So who am I seeing now? I'm only seeing Mr. Skinny, okay? While you guys are only seeing those very funny little characters. See, there you go, to Mr. Small, Mr. Tickle, right? Mr. Happy, because our perspectives are very different, okay? So that's exactly what happens with this little eyes here, okay? When we see something, a situation evolving, right? If we receive information which is biased or incomplete, we do that a lot more. Why is that important, my friends? I don't know if you guys follow the current politics of our world, right? But that's exactly what happens. Sometimes we can receive partial information or corrupted information or good information, perfect. but we cannot see beyond the truth. We cannot analyze, we cannot think, right? Jump to conclusions, either to one side or to the other side, right? It doesn't matter which side you're looking at, right? Without looking at the entire perspective of things, it's very difficult to know what's happening, right? So it's very, very important from our perspectives to think outside of the box, right? And try to see with the eyes of everyone around, not only my little eyes, okay? So in order for me to see the perspective from this side, right, I need your help, right? We need to help each other because I'm blind because I only see this side, okay? And that's exactly what happens in our current discussions, right? I believe in this, you believe in that. So I cannot see with your eyes, you don't see with my eyes. We're not going to move forward. I can certainly guarantee you that. Okay? We're going to start moving forward when we're going to see from all the perspectives together. Okay? A little comment on our current world. See how Spiritus connects everything? Amazing, right? We can do that. Okay? All right. So now what Ozir is telling us here, I know it's a beautiful part. Yeah, I love that too, right? Carol, thank you, Carol. You're so kind always, right? So yeah, thank you for being here with us one more time, learning so much from you, right? So it's great. Thank you very much for all of you. Okay, very nice to be here. So from one side, you can look at them as a criminal. From the other side, Ozir's perspective, he was a faithful friend and father. To others, he may seem a selfish man without any right to forgiveness. Does that ever happen? Right? I'll just pose the question there. When you see someone that will say, you know, there's zero rights to forgiveness for someone, right? Very, very bad. What happened? Or, you know, we're not paying attention to the information we're receiving. We're looking at a biased, right, perspective, and we just forgot about Jesus altogether, because Jesus is great when I go to the Spiritist Center and I read all those beautiful texts about love. But when I have to do it, oh boy, that's a different story. Okay? Right? When I actually have to put in practice, that's another story, right? And that's exactly what he told us, right? Very difficult, but possible, right? That's what we need to work on. Okay, so let's continue on, right? So, but she continues, you know, some people think as, you know, selfish man without any right to forgiveness. For them, he's a benefactor who watched over us on earth with immeasurable tenderness. There you go, looking at perspectives, okay? How can I not be a selfish criminal too, dear mother? You find joy the result of his deed and fed on the love of his heart. How can I not be responsible too if all his guilt was tied to the objective, however insane, and she recognized that, right, of ensuring my status as a wife and a mother. So he was doing all that in order to give more and more and more to wife and family, to support them financially in an insane way. She's very clear about it, because they didn't need any of that, right? They did not need that. But in his own sick mind, he thought that was the thing he had to do. Okay? She continues, plead our case, O heavenly mediator. Enable us to return together to the flesh in which we erred, so that we may expiate our wrongs. Grant me, Alzira says, the grace of following him as a happy, grateful servant. She's actually putting herself into a situation that she's asking to be the servant of that individual. How beautiful is that, right? How beautiful is that? Okay. She's not doing a prayer like this. God, make this man good right now. You know, make him walk again or something like that. You know, make him stand up and be the nice guy. You know, and continue. She's not asking for things. They're not reasonable or tangible. She's not demanding. She's asking for something humble, truthful, and loving, right? To be the servant for him. So once again linked to him, right? The person to whom I owe so much happiness. Bring us together again, she's asking, in the world and help us faithfully restore everything we stole from others. So not only she recognized it, she's now asking for a chance for repair. So you can clearly see she's ready for it, right? She's worked very hard to get to this stage, okay? Divine angel, do not allow us to even dream of heaven before we have paid all our debts on earth. And this is so important, my friends, because when we come to these incarnations, that's what we go through. We ask for what we have. We ask for it, right? So next time you have that challenge, that trial, things that we're learning with, that we're going through, you know what we have to do, my friends? We have to thank. Because very, very often we are in that situation because of what we've done and because what we asked to repair it and because we need it and because God loved us and he allowed us to and because he loved us so much, he gave us help to do it and because he's perfect, he gives us trials that we can do and because he's the loving Father Mother to all of us, he'll continue loving us even if we fail again for the millionth time. That, my friend, is the beauty that Spiritism teaches. Because if you put it all together, as I said, we're going to be always grateful, full of courage, right? And with the certainty that we will make it. We'll get there. For sure. There's no question. For all of us there, listen to this. There's no question. We will continue, we'll grow, we'll do it. We'll win. We'll be victorious in the pathway of our evolution. There's no doubt about it, my friends. There's zero doubt about it. So if you are failing because your mindset right now is starting to vibrate and there's this tangential thinking that all things are bad and horrible and not going to work and this is not, and then now why is this happening? We go through and through that. This is the time to cut it off. Go into a positive cycle, understanding that our Creator is always with us. And he's with us. He's perfect. I don't need to worry about anything. I have to do my part because I'm a co-creator, right? But we'll get there. Okay? That's what she's saying to us. Right? And she's recognizing it by saying that does not even allow us to think about heaven, because that's what she understands heaven as the pathway of perfection. So not even think about heaven before I actually pay back my debt. I have to pay back my debt, right? And help us to accept with dignity, the pain that rebuilds and save. So the pain, she knows she has to go through because she created. Her action creates the reaction. So she's asking for that because she knows that that challenge that she's expecting to have now to repay her debt is what's going to save her. And friends, there's no real suffering. Suffering is a school for us who did the actions in the past, who now needs the reparative, blessful reaction, right? And we will do it. We will conquer it. Believe it. Because that is the truth, okay? Dear Mother, she continues, help us. Star of our lives, rescue us from the darkness of the valley of death, right? So a lot of words here are because of her faith, right? The way she understands things, but the core of the message is a profound, profound message to all of us, okay? Profound message. right? And now, interestingly here, Andrea Luis is going to describe this. So after the prayer, there's a sapphire splendor that emanates from her, because with this prayer, she was able to concentrate all that high vibration, and that really connects. You can see it, they can see it flowing through her, and directed at Antonio. Everyone was very emotional. Antonio was able to wake up. Look, her prayer was so powerful that connected so much to Antonio. She could see the consequences of it right away. Antonio woke up and started talking to her, right? Isn't that beautiful, my friends? But then he eventually goes back to sleep because that's what he needed to rest at that moment. But the connection was there. They actually talked to each other after a long time, right? So how the prayer is so powerful, okay? And that is the prayer that we're studying tonight, okay? But now I want to, in the last few minutes, I just want to continue a little bit on chapter 8, because what's coming up next is also very important, okay? Now, Alzira, after the prayer, goes down to help her son, Luis, right? And then when they arrive at the property on the surface, on Earth, right, that the incarnated spirits are, what they see is one of the most incredible descriptions we have of this complex obsessions, with the technical explanations behind it too. So if you want to learn more about, things that happen in the spirit world that influence us, maybe that's a good reading, okay? So when they arrive there, the two spirits, right? There are Clarindo, right, and Lionel, the two spirits that are the main obsessors here of Luis. They have congregated over 300 spirits that are also connected to the idea of being greedy, of connected to money, right? They congregated all of them to help them in the process of continuously creating these obsessive ideas of greed, right? So see how the whole entire location is being affected and how they're using this, right? Alzira realizes that, well, all of them realize Alzira is not ready to meet them yet, right? But Andrea Luis continues on, and we'll actually meet Clarindo and Lionel, the two obsessor spirits, right? So Silas and Andrea Luis. And when they get there, they don't get to the two obsessor spirits and say, well, get out of here, you obsessor spirits, and attack them and push them. No, because we just learned, my friends, that we always have to exercise love. It doesn't matter what scenario you are. So we look at Clarindo. So these are the great parts of this book, because we look at Clarindo Lionel and say, oh, these guys are horrible. Why are they doing this? They bring 300 spirit. Bad, bad, bad. Are we judging? Oh, I just caught myself judging one more time. Sorry, guys. Right? Just to show you, that's what we do. And in the book, we do the same thing, right? And we'll soon realize that they also will continue their journey to perfection, right? But in this very short period of time, Silas will get to them. Silas is not going to get there and say, hey, Claudia, now get out of here. You guys are such a bad guy. So like, don't do this again, right? Some people will tell you that's what we do is with obsessors, right? You say, nah, get them away from me, right? Well, just a little thing. We're the ones bringing them. Yeah. Who's the obsessor here, right? Think about it. Okay. Anyways, so there they are, right? So what they do, they chat with them. Silas like, oh, tell us what you're doing, Clarencia and Lionel. I see that you're here with our friend Luis, which is counting money here. So Luis is now sleeping. He's so obsessed about the idea of money that he, even when he's partially separated from the body, goes to adore money. Look at this, my friends. He's going to be counting. So they got there. He's falling, playing with money. And then when Andrea Luis and Silas got into the room, the two obsessor spirits started asking them, like, what are you guys doing here? And Silas, in an incredibly intelligent way, will say, well, we're just here to learn from you guys. how you guys do this? And then they start describing to us exactly how they got them under that obsession, right? And if you guys want to wait just 5 more, I don't want to go over time, but just for 5 more minutes, I want to just read to you the description, which is in chapter 8, right, of the book Action and Reaction. And this is probably a subject of an entire study on obsession, right? And we can do it sometime. Okay, I'll be happy to do it eventually. But it may be a subject of entire study. Okay, so this is what they're going to explain. Listen carefully, because you soon realize that this is happening to all of us. Okay, let's go. So, therefore, spirits continue. Besides the normal thoughts, they're explaining, right, to Silas, right, that bind us to our daily routines, we more frequently meet the thoughts that originate in the central desire that characterizes us. So these are the core elements of one's individual. Then you emit those thoughts, right? So daily thoughts, like, what I'm cooking tonight, I need to get home, traffic slow down. That is not the thought we're talking about here. It's like the core of someone's, right? So he gives examples, right? So cruelty is a reflection of the criminal. For example, they can see it, right? So defamation is the reflection of the slander. Sarcasm, the reflection of the cynic, right? Anger is the reflection of the disturbed person, right? They keep explaining, so that's what they see. In the case of Louise, they're seeing the greediness, like they're seeing the connection to money. That's the core. So they're just connecting to that energy, right? So they continue. When they learn, and they describe, there's a school for that in the spirit world. They're learning, right? Not the type of school you see in La Solar. That's a school in a sense that obviously spirits that are vibrating that same category are teaching each other how to do this, right? It's a technique. They call it the school of the Avengers. Look at this, right? And we're not talking about the big Marvel, movie. That's a different story, okay? So the spirits is referring to organizations maintained by criminal intelligences, right? That's what we're talking about. Once we discover, so this is the obsessor saying, right? Once we discover the reflection of the individual, we want to rectify or punish, right? It is very simple to overwhelm the person with unceasing stimulation, reinforcing the impulses and images already in his mind, so our minds, okay? And creating new ones to superimpose over the old ones, and continually feeding a mental fixation, my friends. Look at this. The good news is that we have the remedy for that, right? We do. The prayer, the actions. What do you think? So we know how to deal with that. We just will have to keep doing it every single day, every time. Okay. So he continues, right? That is called a technical illusion. So they create an illusion for us. So that's what he does. So he transmits an image to the mental field of Louise, making it look like his neighbor, in this case, his neighbor's land was about to be actioned off, right? At long last fall into his hands. So he wants to buy the land of his neighbor. So he transmits that image, right, to Louise. All I had to do, in the words of the obsessor, was to visualize a mental picture on the farm being for sale, and he took it as being absolutely real, because when it comes to our fundamental reflection, we tend to believe in it when it happened. So he pictured this image as the farm was being sold, so he jumped into it. He went there, right, to buy the farm, because he's greedy. He wanted to buy everything, right? As soon as I stopped the controlled flow of my hypnotic suggestion, he'll return to his physical body, right? And the dream of bankruptcy of the farm. Look at this, my friends. So how he's able to suggest one image that will completely overwhelm the ability of that spirit to control it, to resist it, right? And he'll just fall through it, right? And as Silas explains to us, this is an example of the transmission of images, somewhat similar to a TV system, right? And he explains this here. So the obsessor is like a video camera, like a TV station, right? That sends the signal because I'm vibrating the exact same signal. My little TV here connects it and replicates it, right, over and over. And by replicating those images in a sequence of events, right, multiple images, I start to live like in a parallel state of mind where I'm living in illusion, my friends. There you go. So that's the message I wanted to give you guys today. Let's not live in illusion. Okay? Let's live reality. Okay? And the reality which is supported by love, because that's the answer. All right, my friends. So that's chapter 8 of the book Action Reaction for you guys. Right? I hope you guys enjoyed it. And tomorrow we're gonna have cuddle again. And then Tuesday is gonna be my last day. In this time, Vanessa will come back. Thank you, Vanessa. Beautiful Vanessa, and tell us such with an immense love, right? And knowledge will help us understanding the illuminated prayers, and we'll continue on with that. Okay, so thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Belinda. Thank you. Let's see everyone who's here. Juliana, Bruno, Hercules. Oh, it's been a long time, right? Yeah, I need to, we need to meet again next time I go to the States, right? Glauco, Betsy, Nora, Joyce was here. Look, I can see her right here. Daisy, right? All of you guys, right? That are with us all the time. Yes, thank you, Nora. Thank you so much. Thank all of you, right? Daisy, thank you, right? Beautiful lesson from Andrea Luiz to us, right? Thank you very much. And may God bless us always, and may we be accepting the blessing always, right? So we open our doors to live in our reality of love. Thank you, and so be it.